resetting your Ouija board, just so you know, every time that bottom line
is it's not making any sense.
Yeah, you're going to get a lot of prescriptions, if that makes any sense. Yeah. Any words show up on your word list yet?
Different ones, yeah.
So if you hit the white little box next on the right-hand side, yeah, you're going to have to cord the glove off from time to time.
Okay.
You'll be able to see the whole list of everything you've had so far.
I don't think I did it right. Wrong box. Oh, that one.
So you've had quite a bit. You've had 11 terms show up so far. And I don't see anything going. So again, 80% of this is going to be terms. All right. I say we go on to the list again, right? Yeah. Or you detected anything yet?
He's looking for food. Yeah, I'm sure. He's on a different quest.
Yeah.
Is it the higher the number, or is it the lower?
I want the higher the number. Yours, I want to know anything.
Am I recording or?
With yours, we needed a little bit more still.
Okay.
So we're going to wait till we get to the next phase.
Got it.
That's where we were earlier.
Yes, it is.
It was already on there, I thought.
Was it? I thought Steve was.
It might have been. Anybody else hear anything on their spirit boxes since we started talking about the big red barn? All right, perfect.
Just radio, static.
So that's what you want.
Yes.
You want those song lyrics to come through. So no matter how silly you think it is, if you hear "drop it like it's hot," I want to know that you heard "drop it like it's hot."
I'm not hearing anything yet.
Okay. All right. So, welcome to a parking lot. I told you I'm taking you to some weird spaces. This used to be something. This used to be, well, first off, all you communication device people, I'm not going to be giving you questions here like what color was George Washington's white horse. You're going to get the answers from the spirit box and the Ouija board communication devices. So, this place used to be the Eliza and Charles Pinckney mansion. Their mansion sat in the front of this space where all those cars are up front by East Bay Street. Eliza's garden was lined up with 5 church restaurants, came all the way across, and we are sitting in the servant and slave quarters for the home. So, who the heck were these people? Eliza and Charles had a son named Charles and had a nephew named Charles. That's 3 different Charleses. You see why we look for secondary clues now? We need to know which Chuck we're talking to. So, the son and the nephew, signers of the Constitution for South Carolina. It's a big deal for us, but I hate politics, and if I don't bring it up, they normally do it for me very angrily through a spirit box. So, let's move on. We're going to talk about Eliza. Her story's much better anyway. Eliza married Charles at a young age. If you're going to ask her how old she was when she got married, don't expect numbers from the colonial times that she came from, like 12 and 14. Think of today's standards. And the reason I bring up her age is because her husband, Charles, was over double her age when they married. Kind of a creepy age gap back in the colonial times, creepy age gap now, just so you guys know. Now, she married him because her father was over in England, where she's from. He thought he was dying. He's trying to bring all of his kids home one last time. She didn't think he was dying, so she stayed put and got married. It's 1744. You don't get married in 1744 to get a green card. We're not even a country yet. So, there wasn't a whole, and she was in love with the guy. That's the whole point. And she was also correct. Dad did not die right away. Instead, he starts sending her gifts from England to this space. You guys have been in town for at least a day. You've seen the word indigo. That was one of the gifts that Eliza received, was the plant seeds of indigo. We use that plant to make blue dye that make our blue jeans blue. Some of you are wearing it right now. So, when she got the seeds, she didn't know what to do with them. She had to learn from her slaves how to keep it cultivated. It's obviously not warm down here all the time, right, Sheri? So, when she figured out how to keep it going and get the dye out of it, she moved it to a cash crop, got a hold of her dad, and said, the rice plantation is going downhill. We're going to make a killing with the indigo. And we now have an international businesswoman during colonial times. Wow. Something absolutely unbelievable. Absolutely wrong. So that's the cool, the business stuff about her. Let's get into the weird stuff, because that's why you guys are all here. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go through every communication device person. I'm going to kind of give you some things to focus on as far as questions you can ask Eliza while we're here. So again, plenty of vehicles in here. We're not going to be going in between vehicles or near other cars. But let's kind of go through those questions. In the event you're not getting answers to your focus questions that I, obviously assigned to you, cherry pick off of somebody else's questions or ask your own that are not yes/no questions. Perfectly fine. So with yours, we're going to go straight after her death. How old she was when she died, what she died from, where she's buried, what president was the pallbearer at her funeral. Yeah, very specific questions. With your Ouija board, we're hoping for Eliza's initials. I'm going to tell you that her initials were ELP. If you get the name Eliza, maybe ask her to spell out her name for us. She's done it for us before in a mixed anagram style. When I say anagram, we had one interference of another letter, so it was EULZIA. So we had all the letters of Eliza with an interference of U. So I was very excited about that because it was only the second night that we had used that device. Your spirit box, I want you to ask about the children, but tread lightly. How many children did she have and what their names were? That's it. The reason why, there's a tragedy here among the children. If we poke the bear, we're going to know it's you and all activity will stop, just so you know. So if you ask any other further questions about her children, yeah, just what the names were, how many did she have? Keep it nice and simple. So again, if we poke that bear, everything stops. And we probably already had a few EMF spikes coming out of the devices. Have you had any numbers yet? 0.6. Is it holding at 0.6?
No, we weren't talking about
Okay. And have you had any numbers show up on yours?
I had 1.4.
Okay, 1.4, still not up to 2.5 yet. With yours,
Sophia.
that name shows up here a lot, but I cannot find a tie.
Okay.
And that's not the only device that it's shown up for on the past. It's come from other spirit boxes as well. But with yours, Eliza was the second wife named Eliza from Charles back to back.
Okay.
So first wife named Eliza, second wife named Eliza,
Okay.
right? Ironically, both Elizas have a maiden name that starts with the letter L. Find out which Eliza was it. She'll show you the maiden name. I've had that happen on that device on command multiple times in the past 3 years. Tom, with yours, the mansion's not here anymore, right? What happened to it? When did that happen? It's obviously some kind of tragedy. And when I say when, we're looking for the date. So again, very specific date. Normally, if we get what actually happened to the mansion, 2 or 3 of the numbers of the date will show up on a spirit box somewhere. It's very interesting, and they're very specific numbers. So kind of keep that in mind. Like almost as specific as 47. So again, very specific. So we are going to spread out. I do have to keep Denise behind, so I'm sure how to use that motion sensor. But everybody else, I want you to kind of spread out a little bit, start asking your questions. You don't always have to ask out loud. It's whatever you're comfortable with. If you just want to focus on it and wait to see what happens, that's cool too. But lots of people I'm already doing. You have to get your weight. So again, get those video cameras running. If your camera's on the left, you can make that circle on your screen and actually get it going and recording. Nice slow movements out of the cameras, and the slower you move, the easier it's going to be to find something when you're reviewing the video. Hopefully, with Sam, we're going to be able to get something in real time because the screen is so large. The other 2 cameras, just so you guys know, Jeff and Mark, they don't always follow up with you guys in real time because the screens are small. I send those videos to YouTube so I can watch them on a nice big computer screen. I always look at those as a review. If you say you may have saw something, I take note of it. So that way, nice, perfect.
Whoa.
Yeah.
8.2. 2.3.
5, 6, and 8, 3. What's that? Yeah. That's it. All right, guys, let's spread out. I'm gonna keep Denise behind. We just had to bring Charles. Hey, my husband Charles and son Charles. That was the
What were your children's name and ages, Eliza?
Yeah. Go ahead and go to the on this child, whatever he told, you know, turn it counterclockwise. Yeah. And then go back up again. In the event this will ask,
You warm?
Nothing.
Are you warm?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nothing. It's sort of annoying. Maybe it needs both of them.
What was that?
Secret. I heard the word secret.
All of these people. Do you want to switch?
No.
Run into one of these bars.
This is lovely. I'm gonna go pee behind the dumpster.
Okay. I was gonna say that's pretty bold. I was gonna come see if I saw an orb next to you when you were peeing. I'm good. Alrighty.
Give that a whirl. Any event that's not getting too much out of it, kind of device around. You want it to be kind of clear. Listen to any kind of words that are going to come through. Nice and slow.
Nothing special yet.
Yeah, and again, with that one, that screen is super small. When I'm on my own investigations, I just set it up and let it run, and I watch it later.
Okay.
I set it up normally with lasers to make sure I can see any kind of motion coming through it. But again, lasers out here with you guys, it gets really boring. You know, so I took the lasers out, and that's when I was like, let me add that stick camera figure in here and see how that's going to run. Anything else coming out of yours? You look super focused. Good breath.
I'm behind you. I'm gonna scare her when she comes by. Let you know. Wow.
I saw you.
I saw you and your puppy's tail wag.
It smells so good.
Back. Watch the
It does.
car. That's the only way in and out, just so you guys know.
Alright, I got nothing. Let's go.
We're not done here yet. We're going to give them another minute because we do actually have some decent readings come out of the EMF detectors. This is ghost hunting. Takes patience.
All right, question for you.
Yeah.
I've always wondered this. When a building is gone,
Right.
the spirits, are they attracted in any way to a structure, or are they still in the area? They localized to a geography
From
versus
what
a
I have
structure.
found, it's going to be demographic. Like, it's going to be geographic. So it is
Okay.
definitely about
So
the
it's more
land.
of the earth and the land.
Right, exactly. It's all about, like, where does she want to be?
Okay.
And we're going to talk about that before we leave the space because I have to give you all the answers to all the questions that I gave you because you don't know what the answers are. So, again, you should have him with the other earbud to help you out. So, because you're...
It can't. It's not wide enough.
Yeah, you stretch it out. They're cheap earbuds.
Yeah,
Just pull them.
Just pull it. Pull these
Well,
apart.
this is mine.
Okay.
That'd be you.
Hold that.
There you go.
All the way down to that little
Yeah, there should be a
connector.
little...
So, have you ever heard of Balsam Mountain Inn in North Carolina?
No.
You should check it out. We did a ghost tour there. I mean, that place was built in 1901, and the slave graveyard was right in front. It's incredible. We did when the ghost actually attacked him in our bed.
Like
They
actual
grabbed his foot.
Well, no, he did. Well, yeah, it touched my foot, but it poked me while I was sleeping,
Interesting.
and I was too afraid to open my eyes.
Why?
I don't know.
That's when you
I'm
grab a
kicking-
camera.
We did
I'm
a ghost
kicking
tour,
myself
and
now.
we heard them through
I
the machine.
felt fear, like there was just a fear inside of me, and I was just frozen.
And I was asleep.
So you also
Yeah.
have to remember, like, the fear that you're not feeling right now is because I'm taking you to spaces that are paranormally safe to
Oh,
be
I'm
taking
afraid.
people.
Okay.
Like, there are spaces in Charleston I won't take you because I don't know you, and I'm not going to take strangers to some of these spaces where it's not paranormally safe. When I say paranormally safe, it's the scratches and the pushes
Yeah.
and the fainting and all of those kind of things. We're dealing with plantation owners. We're dealing with. No, I'm not. I got little kids tonight. Forget it.
Yeah.
Not going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, not going to happen. Like,
Just
I
keeps
won't take
falling
my
out.
own family there because it is that.
Do other tours take them to those places?
There's a space in town that used to do tours through it, and it is one of the spaces where I'm like, no, I'm
Yeah.
not. So I've investigated it. I have enough evidence to say yes, it's definitely haunted. Am I
Mhm.
taking the general public of people I don't know?
But you
No.
go.
I've been one time investigating.
It freaked you out.
It didn't freak me out. My wife fainted on me twice in the exact same spot,
Wow.
and I said, "We're getting the f out of here."
Jeez.
It wasn't about my safety; it was about hers. She's
Wow.
disabled. She comes first.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. She
Well, when we did this ghost tour at the Balsam Mountain Inn, we heard the voices over the static radios like this, so we heard them talking. I mean,
There's a lot of trauma in that place.
Yeah.
It was a tuberculosis for
Yeah,
kids,
it was
and it was
a
a lot of people
hospital.
you
died.
have raised emotion like that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you're gonna get some pretty decent, like enough amount to definitely say it's haunted. If you're
It
there
was-
for an hour or two,
It was so much that the new owner, she bought it 5 years prior to when we came for the second time. The first time we went was the original owner, and the second time it was so much that the ghost would pull, because she was ripping the walls out to do new electric. The electric was from 1900 and it was out of code. The ghost would come and pull the blankets off of her bed when she was
18.2.
sleeping.
Oh wow.
all right, that's our cue. Let's go to the back. We'll continue talking. All right.
And the salt lamps too.
Huh?
And the salt lamps too. Remember?
Oh yeah. What are you picking up? Cup?
Do you want to switch? Would you rather me listen to that and you do this?
I don't. I mean, here, you can listen to this. You can put it in your
It
pocket.
keeps
I
falling
don't.
out.
I don't want that.
All right. You don't want this?
I don't think so.
All right. I'll do that and this.
I want to do this too.
Oh, you do? Okay. It keeps falling out though. Well, you can hold on to the thing.
No, you put it in your pocket, so that's the way it's closer to you.
All right. Sheri, Jeff, come on in.
All right.
Let's go over these answers. Anything, go ahead and stop your videos, give your hands a break. Any other letters, numbers?
Moses.
Turn. There you go. Like use your left hand, put it in the other side. There you go. Go ahead and hit that record button. That way you can shoot it right down the alley. Alright, everybody kept up. Good deal. You guys hear anything, see anything going on with your devices along the way?
I'm staying at 0. I don't know if I can accidentally hit some button.
You may have. Go ahead and squeeze my hair. You got it on hold. Anybody else hear anything? You got any words showing up?
Will.
Will?
Eric.
Eric, no.
And
Will,
then
possibly.
look ahead.
The head?
It said look ahead.
Oh. I was just showing him how to point that camera. For the cameras, again, very popular spot whenever tourists cut through here, because they will. We're just going to split the seas, let them pass through. But your cameras, just keep them pointed one way or the other. Mark, you don't necessarily need to keep a person in view in this location. There's enough foliage to kind of show us a temperature difference on things. But anything else heard on your spirit boxes?
New World.
What was it?
New and World 104.
Yeah, nothing on those. See, you're having the gist of things. But
You're at 4.0.
an average here is not going to be 2.5. So good point. It's going to be around 5. Just so you know, we do have lamp posts near us, so that's giving us a little bit of EMF in a tight space. So anything above, like say, a 5 or a 6, I'll be excited about. So every ghost tour comes down here. This is Philadelphia Alley. This is actually used to be called Duelers Alley. This is where some of the duels used to occur for the city of Charleston. So that's kind of the cool feature of it, right? Here's the story, but you're going to hear it a little bit differently with me just because you're ghost hunting. You need different details. This is not campfire marshmallow time. I will also point out we are not going to be spreading out in this location. We're here to stir things up by talking about it, and we're going to get bleed over as we go into the next location from both spaces. But to be in it, we can't actually go all the way down. We're not allowed to. I'm going to talk about that because I've actually been kicked out of here. That's the fun part of it. So, here's how the story goes. You are so focused on that thing. I love it. She's been like laser focused waiting for something to happen. That device, by the way, this is the reason this location is why we have that device. And I'm going to explain why. There's a doctor that moves down here from Rhode Island. He moves down here. No, by the way, his name is Dr. Joseph Brown Ladd. So for those of you with the spirit boxes, if you hear Brown-Eyed Girl, it is not by accident or coincidence. We have the name Brown. Anyway, he moves down here because he's supposed to get married to his fiancée, Amanda. Amanda just inherited a bunch of money from her dead parents. She has an attorney helping her out with all of this cash. The attorney thinks that Dr. Ladd is just after Amanda's money. So he tells Amanda, get rid of the doctor. Dr. Ladd moves to Charleston to prove that he's not after Amanda's money. He's going to start his new medical practice here. As he's coming into town, the coachman set him up to be robbed and killed. It wasn't a good start to his stay here, but somebody was walking by. His name was Ralph Isaacs. This is where we stop and talk about the Ouija board. Ralph Isaacs has the same initials as where the doctor came from. R.I., Ralph Isaacs, Rhode Island. Before the Ouija board, because I've only had that about 6 months, we were getting the letters R.I. from the spirit boxes by itself. Weirdest thing ever. You'd hear a DJ and it'd be like, R.I., and that would be the end of it. But we would need a secondary clue because that's 2 different characters, right? Just like the Charleses back at the Pinckneys. But back to Ralph. He tells the doctor, dude, I know this guy. He's going to try to kill you, take all your money. So why don't you come with me? I got some friends at 59 Church Street. You can rent a room there, and you can be safe and good to go and enjoy Charleston. Dr. Ladd took him up on the offer, and the 2 became friends. The longer the doctor stays here in Charleston, he's making more money. So he's getting his point across to Amanda and her attorney that he's not just after her cash. Amanda gets wind of this, she's coming down so they can get married, and Dr. Ladd became known as the Whistling Doctor. Irony of the story is that every haunted city any of you will ever visit in the future will have a whistling ghost. It's a cliche. We all have one. What I'm going to tell you is that there is actual proof of this one. I'm going to get to that. Anyway, Dr. Ladd and Ralph go see plays together. They can't sit next to each other because Dr. Ladd makes more money. He gets better seats. That's just the way the hierarchy works. They're talking about Richard III one night on the way home from the play. They're arguing over the new actress. Dr. Ladd thought the new actress was great. Ralph, not so much. The argument then turns into Ralph insulting the doctor's fiancée, Amanda, back home in Rhode Island. It gets really heated and they go their separate ways. Ralph, I told you already, has friends here. He goes to see his friends at the newspaper. He puts an ad in the paper telling the whole city of Charleston what he thinks of the doctor. You're a disgrace to society, sir. That's the kind of mentality of this ad. Doctor saw the ad and rebutted with, let's go to Jeweler's Alley. We're going to settle this over a newspaper ad and an insult on his fiancée. Yes, kind of a weird time. So, they come down, they took their 10 paces, they turned, the doctor pointed his gun in the air, and he shot. He did not want to kill his friend. He just wanted to have the courage and bravery to show up to the fight, which was often what happened at a duel, by the way. Some of you have seen Hamilton, I know. It all comes up all the time. But Ralph has his one bullet, and he puts it in the kneecap on the doctor. Dr. Ladd fell to the ground. His friends picked him up, carried him home to 59 Church Street, where he dies 10 days later on November 2nd of 1786. He refused medical treatment. You have to remember he's a doctor. He probably tried to bleed out the bullet himself. This was a time where bullets were made of lead. This wasn't about the wound, it was about the lead poisoning. So, every ghost tour that comes down here will tell you to listen for the whistles as you're coming through this alley. It is always this quiet, aside from the air conditioner we're all hearing right now. On a busy Saturday afternoon, this is what it's like. It's always quiet. I will tell you that we do have whistles that come through on your voice recording. I can't explain them. Now, if you're going to come down here on your own and go all the way through, which remember, I can't take you all the way through, turn on your voice recorders, listen for whistles in the background, but every local knows this story. Anybody walking up and down Queen Street or Cumberland is going to throw a whistle down this alley. I do it every single night. So I have to pass this alley to get to my car, and when my daughter's on the tour, we race to see who's going to throw the whistle first, especially since I got booted out of here. Let's get into that. That's the fun part. Now, oh, by the way, the word whistle will also show up in our Spirit Box recordings, and we've also had certain whistling parts of songs show up while we've been in here. I want you to think of like moves like Jagger with the whistling part, Guns N' Roses' Patience with the whistling part. Again, it's the weirdest things that show up here. Dr. Ladd's birthday also shows up here, along with the word kneecap, his name, you name it. All kinds of clues come out of this location. How did I get kicked out? I used to take people all the way through because this alley didn't go all the way through this way all the time. This is where they used to keep some of the livestock for Charleston before it was Dueler's Alley. So it was kind of cut off so they can keep control of the livestock. Which means those bricks over there are older than these bricks down here. What I would tell you, that those are sun-dried bricks from slave children at that end. There's one full handprint and fingerprint swipes in those bricks on that side of the alley. I would tell my folks this because I'm all about history. I don't care about the diversity of my group. We all need to see how far we've come from slavery. We're in Charleston. We need to see it. I don't care. So, everybody still wants to try to get a reading out of that brick with the handprint. November 26th, 2020, my entire group is around that brick. I'm trying to move them along because I treat that brick the same way I do a grave. That kid's not staring at that brick in the afterlife. It's just a guarantee. I wouldn't be there, neither would any of you. I'm trying to move them along because it's also outside the kitchen window of the beautiful mansion at the end of the alley. I'm out of bounds and didn't know it. I'm just trying to be respectful. Well, the new owner of that mansion came out screaming. My daughter thought it was great because Dad's getting yelled at. And we moved on, yeah. So we moved on. The next night was Thanksgiving. I don't work Thanksgiving because I worked in retail management mainly for Walmart for over 20 years. I don't work Thanksgiving ever again. So I got a phone call the next day, November 28th. Yes, the dates are relevant. I'm getting to that point. They asked me to go down halfway or to reroute my group. I didn't think it was fair of my groups of 10 to be around 20 to 60 other tour groups here of people, right? So I decided I'm going to reroute, but I told my group, I don't really get into this next story. I'm a vampire guy, not a pirate person. We're going to see what happens. I've never had anything come up, but we're going to see what goes on. Before we left, somebody heard the name Anne on a spirit box. I did not tell that group we were going to be investigating the famous female pirate Anne Bonny. So I went, damn it.
And who?
Anne Bonny.
Bonnie?
Yes. So we get down there, and I told what little bit I did know about pirates in Charleston, and somebody else hears the number 300 on a spirit box. I don't know what that means in real time. I do the research for them the next day. We were there November 28th of 2020. Anne Bonny's trial for piracy was November 28th of 1720. We were there on the exact 300th anniversary of her pirate trial. So I went, now I've got to learn about pirates. I have read more books on pirates, and I'll better be grateful I have a master's degree in creative writing to piece together pirate lore to find factual data for us to investigate with. Everything we're going to be talking about at the next location came from a minimum of 2 resources. So again, it is one of those things where a lot can happen or nothing can happen. There's a lot that goes on. So I'm usually pretty quick to determine after I'm done talking about the history of the space, why we're there, if we actually have something going on or not. Again, Anne is said to be seen all over town because she came down here to sell the things from her father's plantation. And we're going to talk about that in just a moment. Before we leave the space, I'll also tell you about this gate because not all the other tours will do that. This gate, remember that the alley was cut off on this side? In the event there was a dead guy, the loser of the duel, this was the shortcut to get to St. Philip's Cemetery on the other side of the wall instead of walking all the way down to Queen Street and wrapping back around, carrying a dead body. It delayed the time to go celebrate the winner with a pint. Just so you know why this actual archway is here. The wrought iron was probably put in the early 1900s based on the ironwork of it, but the archway was definitely there. This is just a courtyard, and you're going to see when we get around to the St. Philip side that you're going to see everything's gated off. It probably wouldn't have been back in the mid-1700s. So, I say, now you've been have a nice clear view of the alley from the SLS camera, so hopefully we don't get too many things. I've been kind of keeping an eye on it from the brush because that will pick up from any leafy stuff, will give us stick figures kind of going along with it. Any other terms show up before we leave the space? What do you got?
After will, I have sit, hate, achieve, stay, report, formula, hot, and include.
This shit is weird. Like, it doesn't normally curse at us. And the funniest thing, it gave us the F-bomb one night when I handed it to like this 80-year-old woman. I'm like, oh my god, what is happening? So I'm kind of really careful with that. Anything coming out of your Ouija board over there?
Still just
Gibberish?
gibberish.
No R-I at all?
No.
No, nothing at all. Still do you have an earbud in?
No, Jeff does.
Yes, you took it.
Do you hear anything?
Did you hear anything while we've been here? Not really. I know you were kind of focused on me, and it could be hard.
I mean, yeah, nothing to speak of.
Oh, it's a rat. It's a rat.
That's our cue, everybody. Let's roll.
Hello, buddy.
You're all filming him. Like, it's going to be on YouTube.
Yeah, totally.
That's a big rat.
Where?
Right there. Does he jump on you?
Oh, yeah.
Is it really a rat?
Yes.
Yes.
He's a beautiful rat.
Gee, look.
What's
A
wrong with
beautiful rat?
What's wrong with
You
rats?
can't even look at us.
Are you religious? God made them. God made all creatures. All creatures, big and small.
You sure it's a rat?
Yes.
Not a, like, squirrel with no tail?
It's a rat. I'm looking at it. Come on.
Okay.
Jumping out at you. Yeah.
We walked by this earlier today.
I paid him to do that to get us out of here. Just so we were on time. One of the things I used to tell that story like right outside the alley and that way building. We had rats coming up. So I was like, I better go back into the alley. So that's why we only go down that quarter way. And then it's a place to sit. Because it's better to get some footage while we're actually in the alley.
Yeah.
So anybody hear anything, see anything before we get started with why we're here? Jeff, you got nothing?
Nothing.
Okay. Anything coming up on Ouija?
The letter U so far.
Yeah.
I wish it would do
Yes.
something coherent, like a word.
So
Oh, it's
with-
10:30.
I will tell you with that specific device, we're still teaching the ghosts how to use it. They're not used to using EMF detectors to communicate. So
I don't know what I'm doing.
you broke it again. I just turned off the backlight. So whenever you think something's wrong, top left button on the face, just hold it down until it goes off, and then turn it back.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So, Tom, did you get anything on the way here?
So kind of like this. I don't know.
Okay. All right. So while we're in here, after we're done with the history, and we will spread out in this location. Try to stick close to Sam so that way he actually gets some audio bits from that. So his camera will pick up audio as well. So in case you're missing something. So let's kind of go through why we're here. We're going to be discussing that little tiny building over there. That's the powder magazine. Those are not crosses on the building, just so you know. Those are earthquake bolts. If you're unfamiliar with earthquake bolts because you're not from here or from California, they're basically turnbuckles. So in the event we have another earthquake, like what I mentioned earlier in 1886, which we haven't had another earthquake like that since, by the way, you can turn those slowly, day by day, and it's supposed to tighten the building up so it doesn't incur any further damage. Yeah, it's a great idea. It just doesn't work, just so you know. The reason I bring them up, it's part of the reason why we're here. Those are the first set of earthquake bolts that Charleston ever put in. Why? Because that's the oldest government building in South Carolina, finished in 1713. We're here because that building is what I call a familiar. You guys all watch the TV shows. It's like using a teddy bear to attract a child ghost. It's the same principle. So, again, that's why Anne Bonny is said to be seen all over town. By the way, that beeping everybody's hearing, that is coming from the garage. So in case you're like, oh my god, my ears are ringing, it's not you, it's the garage. Something's going on over there. I heard it earlier.
I heard the word design, like right before you started talking about that.
Well, the design of that place, I haven't even touched yet. Like, I'm not even
Cool.
going to it. It gets boring. We're talking about architecture all the time. So I stopped talking about the way it's designed. But the earthquake bolts is definitely part of its design. But let's kind of go through, again, Anne Bonny's story. Our story begins right in the middle of the building's construction. The building took 10 years to build. Does that sound like our government? Small building, 10 years? Yeah, not at all. I'll answer for you. So 1703 to 1713, the story begins in 1708, right smack in the middle of it. Young lady moves here in 1708 by the name of Anne Cormac. She comes here with her father from Ireland, and they're together along with his mistress. But the mistress is Anne's mother. Are you guys with me so far?
So he's got a mistress, a wife. The mistress's daughter is Anne.
Right.
Got it.
Haven't mentioned the wife yet, but good call. So the three
Well,
of
if
them,
there's a mistress, there's got to be a wife.
the three of them are running away from her father's angry wife. So they have to leave Ireland in 1708. How pissed off was that woman, ladies? I'm just putting it out there. Like, that's a big deal.
No potatoes for you.
I know, right? They land in Georgetown. That's just north of us, between us and Myrtle Beach. So Dad bought a plantation. Mom died pretty quickly. That means Dad is sending young Anne down here to Charleston to sell things from the plantation to help keep things afloat. Hence the familiar building. Again, they live in Georgetown. So it's a long trek by horse and carriage to sell things from a plantation. But back home in Ireland, Anne was said to be kind of a badass. They say when she was only 7, 8, 9 years old, remember this is pirate lore, no exact numbers, that she killed one of her servants with a knife to the belly. So again, we have gotten servant, knife, and belly all in the same evening. Let's fast forward. Building's done in 13. By 1715, pirates are coming through Charleston pretty heavy. Anne is stoked. Why? Because she's going to fall in love so she can earn her freedom, just like a man. Man's world. First guy she falls in love with. This is James Bonny. I said first because there's a handful, and we're going to go through them. James Bonny is a filthy pirate Dad doesn't approve. They ran away to Jamaica. They got married. Anne Cormac became Anne Bonny. That's where the name comes from. But when they got there, James Bonny is not Captain Jack Sparrow like what she was hoping for. Because every young lady wants a Captain Jack Sparrow, right? So, this guy is a privateer. He's a spy for the British. This is not who she wants. He's a coward. So he's basically rebelling against his own people. So a few years later, she falls in love again. Guy number 2. John Rackham, a.k.a. Calico Jack. This is the guy that they based your Johnny Depp character off of, just so you know, Calico Jack. He has his own ship and wants to be part of it. You can't put a girl on a pirate crew. Does anybody know why? And keep it family friendly. There's young ears here.
She wouldn't be safe from the others.
It's cursed.
Bad luck.
It's bad luck.
Oh,
Bad luck.
got it.
The cursed bad luck.
Especially if they're redheaded.
It is bad luck. That's what we're going to go with. So good job. And again, you wouldn't believe half the answers I hear from that question. So he makes a deal with her. If you dress like a guy and look like my crew, you can be part of it. But you're going to be a female in my quarters. Most of us are adults here. Let's put 2 and 2 together. Being a female in his quarters, she's eventually going to get pregnant. You cannot have a pregnant pirate dude on the crew. Somebody's going to figure out that she's a girl. So he, before she starts the show, drops her off in Cuba. Go have the baby here, come back later, we'll figure it out. She goes and has the baby, but returns with no baby. We have no idea what happened to the child, and all of the research I've done on pirates and Anne Bonny, can't find it. The part of the story that's important is that she comes back dressed as a female. This makes Jack angry. And while she was away giving birth to his baby, he captured another pirate crew. They're down below deck. Anne's going to go flirting, because that's what Anne does. She's going to make him even more mad. Guy number 3. Guy number 3 turns out to be a female, dressed like a guy to be part of the pirate crew that Calico Jack captured. So now we have 2 females doing the exact same thing on the same ship trying to be pirates. This young lady's name is Mary Reed. She went by Mark Reed to become a pirate. Notice the names, they will come through on your spirit boxes. Her and Mary became friends, possibly lovers, we're not going to really know for sure, but the British find out where they are. They send an entire fleet of ships to come take down one measly pirate ship. Rumor is Anne and Mary were the only 2 pirates not drunk enough to come up and fight with 1 bullet flintlocks. probably because they didn't know how to use a cannon jet. Obviously, 2 young ladies with 1 bullet flintlocks are not going to take on a fleet of British ships. Now, they get arrested, and as they're being arrested, Anne looks at her captain, her beau, Calico Jack, and says, "You should have fought like a man instead of being hanged like a dog." The word dog and even barking has shown up on our spirit boxes in the past before we even enter the States, which is very interesting. So, the judge wants to see the 2 men, quote unquote, that fought back so valiantly on their own. He's already tried and hung Calico Jack and the drum pirates that wouldn't fight. They're dead and gone 2 days prior, November 26th. Now, the 2 young ladies go in front of the judge. His name is Nicholas Laws. They reveal their gender. He doesn't give a shit that they're female. They're still pirates, so he's still going to hang them. "We plead our bellies," was the last thing they screamed out, because you cannot hang a pregnant woman in 1720. It's illegal. So he sends them both back to jail and delays it. Dad is still up here in South Carolina with all of his Irish money. He was an attorney back home. He has some cash. Brings her home. She remarries. That's husband number 2, guy number 4. We're going to count Mary. We don't really know. She has 4 kids, dies at the age of 84. That's all we know after the pirate period. Everything else is up for speculation. Different versions of the story will tell you she stayed here. Others say that she went up to Virginia, changed her name, and she's buried up there. Who knows where she is? However, Mary Reed died a year later in a Jamaican jail from whatever pirates die from in a Jamaican jail. Use your imagination. We're talking pirates, make it romantic. It's probably scurvious, bumpy, gross, whatever you guys want to come up with. Most books and articles will tell you that it was some kind of fever, something very simple. I say
About
BS.
bacteria and disease.
Oh, look at that.
Wow.
Very scurvious, right?
That's how she died.
We will be spreading out in this location. We're going to know right off the top what's going on within the first 5 minutes if we have activity or not. A couple of things that I left out on purpose, because you guys know how to ask questions by now. That I left out the name of Anne Bonny's parents. That's the father and the mistress, not the wife. And the name of Calico Jack's ship. Everything else, this is not a prominent English woman where we need to tiptoe. Poke the bear. Let's get some answers. Denise, with yours, you will use the motion sensor in here, and you're going to ask for Anne Bonny's hair color, which obviously Regina's already given you. So, it is red. The only way for her to give you a red is to touch the antenna. I've had it here in the past multiple times, on command. Very interesting. And again, it's very seldom, but we do get it. As far as the EMF detections, any numbers that you get on this back half, I'll be excited about. Anything on the front half of this lot is going to be because of the parking meters and the electrical poles in the corners. Keep in mind, other tours will cut through this location, and people will be going to their cars, those of you with cameras. So kind of be mindful of that. Let's have some fun. Let's do this. This is not our last stop. We still got 1 more to go. So let's see if we can find out about the fun.
are being too boisterous, or because they're just being fake? No, mine's very subtle, and mine's never loud. So I always. I know. That's when I came back. Yeah, but then when I came back, it's when I felt the burn on my leg, and I was like, that's weird. I don't want. Oh, is that? Oh, I didn't hear the meeting. They don't make it that bad.
By the way, I'm psychic, I'm practicing bridge, or there's just too much going on here. Like, yeah, there's a lot going on here. So that's why I bring you here. I'm getting worried about you. I get it. Like, basically, that's what I'm concluding.
The interesting thing was no, this guy is very good. But yeah, that's so crazy. Like, it's still burning. Like, right here.
A lot of sense now.
Cool.
See what's going on with everybody? Other buttons you don't use because it's temperature difference.
I can't do this anymore. Incident free welcome. You gotta work some for your running areas. Come on, we gotta make this guy famous. I said, come on, we gotta make this guy famous.
I thought you picked up on a lot of good words.
Let's go touch this old building.
How are you guys doing over here? And the river.
building is cool.
Yeah. Come on. Come on, Anne, Bonnie, let's go. Are you peeing? Let's go, Anne, Bonnie. Where are you? You around? You want to say anything to us? What do you got? I'm tired. I want to go to bed.
Huh?
I want to go to bed.
Let's go.
That's very cool with the skirt.
Oh, did you get a doctor?
You got doctor?
I got doctor when you were talking at the very beginning.
Okay. Jeff, you got anything?
Freedom, that's it.
I got the word free.
Wow.
Interesting. All right, let's group up over here.
Okay.
So again, this is until I have super specific.
I'm gonna stop it.
Yeah, let's go ahead and kill those videos for right now. Because it's only Julie's. Because if I give you guys 4 hours of this, somebody's gonna come out. It's a lot.
Hey, well, I threw a little comfortable device in the backyard.
Well, it's not a backyard.
Well, not a backyard, but whatever. I'm with
That would be
See anything?
No.
With you? Yes. The ghost moved with us.
Then it moved out.
And then it left. And I'll tell you, I knew when it left because there was this loud boom. The house shook. Woke me up. I jumped up out of bed, ran outside because I thought a big truck had run into the house. Yeah, oh my gosh. And the only thing that made me realize that I wasn't crazy, my daughter-in-law was there. And looked at the stuff and just did weird things. Oh my goodness. When I finally realized it was a spirit, I had, you know how when you wake up, first wake up, you're not ready to get up, you're just kind of laying there? Yeah. That's what I was doing, but I had my eyes closed and I hear footsteps come running in the bedroom. And then somebody jumped on the bed. And I rolled over to see which one of my kids had jumped on the bed. Yeah. And there was nobody there. Oh my God. And I said, okay, I'm losing it now. And my son gets up. He stayed in the upstairs bedroom. And came down. I told him what happened. He's like, yeah, Mom, you're losing it. And he goes back upstairs to get dressed. And he's sitting on the side of the bed putting his shoes on. And the same thing happened to him. Heard the footsteps.
What church is this?
That was St. Michael's Church. That's where Thomas Pinckney's buried.
Ooh.
The gentleman we just talked about.
Yes.
I was waiting for something to occur with you with that. Alright, so the monument behind me, looking directly behind me, there's a group over there. I stopped here. The first time I came here in November, I had no idea what we were going to find. It was just kind of like, let's experiment with this space. Had a very small group. They were willing to experiment. And we came in, and there's tons of monuments in here. So I didn't know who we were going to come up with. Speaking of, that's Washington, like George himself, standing right there over us. This is Washington Park, in case you didn't know where you're at. But what we found was the exact birth year of the man on the bust directly behind me, along with his first name and part of his last name. name is Henry Timrod. Henry and Tim show up on spirit boxes, and we had the year 1828 specifically on the spirit box. And we didn't know what that was. Let's look around on the box. Hopefully, about 3 of them. So he took him up on the offer. He was all around Columbia, right in the middle of the state. He's out there alone, where he writes his last words. His last words were, "Beholder of brief mortality." Translates to person of short life. And then he coughs, and it lands on the page in a blood stain. Had tuberculosis. Now that blood stain looks like a man writing over his desk. Yeah, they show this because Henry Timrod's entire collection is at the Charleston Library Society. They show it one day a year. Call it the Blood Book. It's on Halloween. You have to be a member of the society to be able to see it. But the internet is beautiful. I'm going to show you what this page looks like so that way you can see his last words in the blood stain. After I show it to you, I will also read a very short stanza from one of his poems called Charleston, and that will hopefully stir things up. This is a very shy, introverted man. It may take us a few minutes to find out what's going on with him. You can find out his son's name, the birthday of his son, and obviously how old he was, but also Henry had a wife. So find out the wife's name as well if you can. Other questions, just be gentle with the guy. So this is the blood stain that he coughed up on the page. And you can also see his last words of beholder of brief mortality right above it. It looks like a man writing at his desk. So the interesting thing is last night on the spirit box, I discovered at his desk in the spirit box while we were here. So we do get the word blood, we do get the word book here, so kind of be prepared for that as well. Reading a short stanza from him. I will also tell you part of the reason why we have Sam's SLS camera. December, one of my guests brought one of the big chunky ones with them, and we had a full 8-minute interaction with Henry by his bus. When I say interaction, it was, "Henry, can I read a stanza from one of your poems? Raise your right hand." And we watched the figure raise his right hand and then lower. Again, 8 minutes of it. How it ended was the only woman in our group went over to the side where he was standing, and I walked around him several times, so we had a point of reference. She walked over and outstretched her hand and asked Henry to shake her hand and disappear. Reason being, she's a woman. In the 1800s, it was probably very disrespectful for a female to offer her hand to be shaken during those times, and we never got him back. Again, craziest thing ever. We moved the camera to make sure it was legit. I walked around several times. We had a point of reference, like craziness. So,
Which camera picked that up?
somebody had an SLS camera like Sam's, but he didn't know how to record with it, so we had to use Jeff's camera over the guy's shoulder to get the footage. So again, it's all up on the website. You guys will be able to have access to that because your guys' data stays up on my website for an entire year. We know not in the temple of the fates, God has inscribed her doom, and all untroubled in her fate she waits the triumph or the tomb. This is written right in the middle of the Civil War, a poem called Charleston, basically stating that our city needed to wait the fate of the war, so we knew if it was the triumph or the tomb. Again, we've had the word triumph and tomb show up in the same evening. Again, it's a nice job. It's going to take us probably 5 to 10 minutes to get them worked up in place. EMF device, for those of you that have EMF detectors, you have to go all the way up to 150%.
Give it me, for I will carry it.
Ready?
Are you ready?
Yeah.